Hello, I'm in the Magdalen chapel in Edinburgh, and this is where the corporation of hammermen met from the Middle Ages. Back then, Scotland was a Catholic country, and the corporation of hammermen was a guild, so a professional association. And those who had served their apprenticeship successfully for 7 years produced a masterpiece with a hammer would be accepted as a master of this corporation. We call it guild. And so the corporation of hammermen was regulating prices, quality of work and so forth. And to stay together, they would pray together. So they'd meet here and they'd pray. So it's dedicated to Mary Magdalene. If you know about Via Dolorosa, Jesus on his way to be crucified, and Mary Magdalene met him, comforted him, supposedly wiped his face, and some people believe that his image was seared into the cloth. Some people even think that Jesus was married to her. The Bible doesn't say that Jesus was wed, nor does it say he was unwed. But anyway, then the Reformation came in the 1550s. Certain noblemen, clergy, and merchants, they decided that Protestantism was a good thing. They'd copy England, Ireland, many other countries, and changed to Protestantism. The Queen of Scots at the time was Mary, Queen of Scots. She was in France. She'd been there since she was a toddler, and she didn't come back till 1560 when she was 18. So she was unable to direct things there. She was brought up a Catholic. Her mother, Mary of Guise, was here in Scotland trying to control things. She was French. She wasn't very respected and lost control of the situation. So the Church of Scotland was established. The the Catholic Church was abolished, and Catholics could only meet by subterfuge, have clandestine mass, and faced severe penalties for doing so. So the Church of Scotland was Protestant, one was Presbyterian in nature, to say it elected elders, as in presbyteros in ancient Greek, to govern the church. They rejected the notion of apostolic succession. So anyway, the Catholic Church is very ritualistic. It's a supremely optical form of Christianity, and we're iconographic, theatrical, with the bells and the smells, but have a splendid musical tradition. The Church of Scotland stressed simplicity, sola scriptura, and rejecting frippery, and so the tawdry finery of Catholicism were against Rome. So anyway, this reflects that. It's rather plain. Up there you have the crown under the hammer, the symbol of the League of Hammermen, right at the back. At least you can see the chandelier. Now look at this chair. So the corporation of hammermen, they would elect a deacon. Now deacon, not really in the religious sense. Deacon is kind of one down from a priest in the church's hierarchy. But in this sense, deacon was just the person who was head of the corporation of hammermen for 1 year, and it would change. Hammermen, as in they work with a hammer. Come closer. Do you see here the hammer, the angels holding it up, the thistle of Scotland, and the crown there, and then all this floral display as the crest, and the leather, and it lost all its colour because it dates to 1708, as you can see. And so they decided to restore it. They knew which colours it was. They painted it, and they wanted some leather. They had to replace the leather, and they wanted 18th century leather. So they found a Russian ship which had sunk off the southern coast of England in the late 18th century, and in a bit after the year 2000, it was salvaged. They brought the leather up and they placed it here. Astonishing, it didn't suffer more water damage. But anyway, you can see some biblical quotations there from Proverbs, chapter 19, verse 17, and so forth. You can see the names of all the people up here who left money in their will to the corporation of hammermen, and how much they left. Pounds, as here, lib Scots, 38 lib Scots, as in pound Scots, a libra, as in balance in Latin, because it's pounds weight. So that's why it's libros in Spanish for pounds, as in pound sterling, or livre in French for the pound sterling. The French even used to have their own currency, livre, like equilibrium, equal weight, or libra, indeed, the sign of the zodiac, to do with balance. And there are various currencies, like the Portuguese escudos were left and so on. Merks, M-E-R-K-S, I don't know how much that's worth. Remember, 1707 was the Act of Union between England and Wales on one hand and Scotland on the other, but the Scottish pound existed as well as the pound sterling. It wasn't until well into the 18th century they were completely merged. People still used pound Scots as a unit of account. Even if they're actually talking about pound sterling, people say, well, how much is that in pound Scots? Telling you. It's a bit like, say, after Germany adopted the euro, still quoting in Deutschmarks in case people couldn't figure out how much that was really worth. So there we were. We had a similar situation in Ireland well into the 19th century, well, about 20 years in. So what else about this place here? So it's fascinating. What an almost undiscovered historical gem. And I've been in Edinburgh dozens of times. I've never ever seen it open. So it was purchased in the late in the 18th century by the McQueen family, and they opened it. It was their private chapel. You can see here, so 2 oil paintings, rather weathered and dark, of 2 of the magnates of that family. What else is going to say? So when the Reformation was going on here in the mid-16th century, John Knox, perhaps the doyen of the Scots Reformation, he came here, for example. People were executed in the Grassmarket, not a quarter of a mile from here, because it was a big city, so they were bringing in grass to feed the horses. People who were busy with them didn't have time to take them out into the countryside to graze them. But anyway, I said it was a Presbyterian constitution for the Church of Scotland. In 1638, King Charles I, he gone down to England, and he said, well, I'm going to make it the same as the Church of England, make it Episcopalian. Episcopus as in bishop, and archbishops, no more electing elders, and so on. And we should believe in apostolic succession, and he bringing in his Book of Common Prayer, saying that Scotland had to copy England and Wales. Well, people in Scotland were having none of that, because in 1603, at the Union of the Crowns, they'd been promised Scotland does not have to copy England, nor does England and Wales have to be a facsimile of Scotland. Each of them can do their own thing. They share a monarch, but there's no parliamentary union, and he hadn't consulted, he just tried to impose it on them, and the Church of Scotland held a General Assembly without his sanction, met it at Glasgow, and they signed the National Covenant, or was it the National League and Covenant? I'll show you over here, covenant as in the Bible, they're God's covenant with the children of Israel, and so covenant and agreement really with each other to resist this. Here it is, written, and it's actually written in English, or partly, you could possibly say Scots. Some of the wording is slightly Scots. I mean, it's not just the 17th century English, but the spelling would be not the vowel you'd use in standard English. It was just surprised they didn't write it in Latin, actually, and we got these people to sign. First of all, signed at Greyfriars Churchyard, again, which is 5 minutes walk from here. And hundreds of copies were made and were distributed all over Scotland, saying, we completely accept that Charles I is king, but if you try to promote irreligion, we do not accept that. The king does not have a right to do something go against God, and the Church of Scotland has a Presbyterian nature, and that's the best form of Christianity, and we shan't tolerate you interfering with that. But Charles I was having none of it. He believed in the divine right of kings, like his father, James I before him, and blah, blah, blah. Despite being born in Dunfermline Abbey, living in Scotland until he was 3, Charles I was completely insensitive to the wishes of the Scots nation. So anyway, that led to the so-called Bishops' War. He appointed bishops and archbishops, but a high majority of people in Scotland were against him. And about 700,000 people signed this. Bearing in mind the population of Scotland was only about 1 million. Quite a few women signed as well as men, which is fascinating. Now, a lot of people couldn't write in those days, so someone had to write their name for them, just make a mark like an X, which is why we've got to be a bit dubious about this figure, 700,000, because a lot of the signatures could be forged, or just put a name, just put an X for someone. So that's that. I shan't tell you the whole history of the Church of Scotland, and there was the English Civil War. It was really a fight here. Cromwell was here, but anyway, fast forward, Charles II came in, yet more fighting, persecution of Presbyterians when he's trying to make the Church of Scotland Episcopalian, as in the same way as the Church of England. It's only in 1688, with a revolution and William III coming in, he said, I completely accept the Presbyterian character of the Church of Scotland. It can continue like that, and so it's remained down to this very day. Okay, so other things, if we come over here, you can see this is run by the Scottish Reformation Society, which runs tours related to the Reformation in Scotland. Reformation below. And look at this. It says in Latin, insignia of the city of Edinburgh. Look at this castle here with the red flags. This woman here, and that's, is it a deer? It's a roe. Oh, okay. Okay. So God sort of prevents nothing or frustrates nothing. Yeah. So there, and this person down here, this child with the angel's wings, the sword, the mace, that's it. Fascinating. Well, that's enough from the Magdalen Chapel.